Good evening. My name is Alpheaus, Markets Community Advocate here in New York City. And I'd like to welcome you to Truth to Power for an Urban Agenda. Today's segment. With so much being talked about in the news about the presidential election and the vice president elected, we're going to explore Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and we'll touch on how some of this politics affects our community. So, let's talk about the two candidates coming out of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. As we know, we're dealing with an individual who doesn't really have an agenda for the black community, and one who, like everybody else, would like to say a black woman has been picked. What does that mean for our communities? This is what we would really like to know, and this is what we'll explore. We both know that both have a history in politics, seasoned politicians. Joe Biden, he's been in office now as a senator for 47 years. We know his past. We know some of the things he's done. Kamala Harris went from district attorney in San Francisco from 2004 to 2011, and then later became California's attorney general. Later on, she moved into running for Senate. She's been backed by Obama, President Obama, as well as the Clintons. So what does that mean for us? What we have to do is understand the voting aspects of it. Our votes do not actually predict the outcome of an election. And when I say it doesn't predict the outcome of an election, directly, we vote for delegates. If anybody who's watched or anybody who's voted this summer in the primary, you notice that you voted for a delegate. Who may have been that delegate? Well, here in New York City, what I've seen on the ballots was a lot of elected officials who were delegates for some of these candidates. We have to look at that. We have to question the agendas here. Did any of these politicians who were elected to be delegates, what have they done within our communities? How have them being in office impressed us or empowered us to want to continue to vote where our communities have seen a difference? Has that taken place? Will it take place? These are the questions we want to know. We can't assume that the pressure that's been perpetuated within media to get Trump out means that we'll get a favorable outcome. Because we already know Joe Biden, the damage he's done and some of the things he hasn't done for the community has been, how can I say, interwoven within politics. And make no mistakes, neither party has a black agenda. Neither one, Republican or Democrat. Does it mean that we shouldn't vote? No, that's not what's being said. What's being said is that you have so many other people on the ballots. And when I say the ballots, you have your congressmen, you have your state senators that's running this shit, as well as assemblies. These are the people that we have to look at when we go on that electing booth. We have to see what have they done in covenants. Have they been doing what they're supposed to be doing where our communities have benefited from? Some of the problems that's been persistent just in our communities. And when I speak about our communities, I'm talking about the black communities, black and brown communities. Education for our children. Have our children received equality of education within the public school system? I can answer that question for you right now. It hasn't. And the fact that it hasn't, guess what has taken place? There's school districts that's been failing and failing miserably. They say 80% of the children, or 77%, close to 79%, I would say, don't have an education requirement for community college level, which means that our kids are not getting the same education or equality education. If we look at what's going on within the public school system, we even have the chancellor that is saying, listen, schools are segregated and these kids are not getting equity within education. How do we begin to look at getting equity within our children's educational system? one way. Understanding how our voting powers go. Understanding how we vote and the way we vote, and will that translate to our communities getting what is supposed to be got. But I can tell you this here now. We've been removed from slavery since 1865. That's over 154 years. What has actually taken place with our community since then? What have we achieved? What has the civil rights movement done for us? When we look at Kamala Harris, when we look at Joe Biden as senators, what have they done on a federal level during their terms that actually made some legislative forward motion for our communities? Because we could talk all day about Trump. Trump. The things he says, everybody's appalled by it. That's just the way it is. What we have to remember is this here. The powers that be are the ones who elected him. And the powers that be, 9 times out of 10, are the people that control what's going on within the politics. Again, your electoral college, your delegates, majority of them are politicians, right? Who have been, how can I say it, brought. And when I say brought, majority of people that fund their campaigns or telling them how to go about voting. Do we really want that to be our history, our continued history, where we're literally being put in a position where we don't get anything? We got to think about that. And what we have to do is understand it. Because when we speak about voting, when we speak about this election is not really too impressive, nor is it important. And when I say important, I mean, when you look at the presidential candidates, the presidential chair itself, what has it done that translated to our communities being effective or how can I say it, beneficial? A lot of us looked at Obama, a black man. What did we get out of it? You know what a lot of people say? Affordable health care. But when you look at affordable health care, it benefited more poor whites than it did blacks. Way more. And if you look at the numbers, we only make up, again, 46 million compared to 281 million. So it really didn't balance out for us. It balanced out for people itself, to which when you look at everything, we don't have a say in it, but they want our votes. If you look at 2016's election, they actually blamed the black community because they said the black community didn't come out to vote. So it was our fault. How could that be when we're outnumbered? We have to think. We have to understand that we are being classically conditioned by a controlled narrative perpetuated through media to inject somebody else's agendas, not ours. And when I say that, I say this to be clear. Neither party has our agendas. So what we must do is vote, not from here, but from here, and understand our votes. We must inject out agendas in both parties. And I don't see that taking place. I see a lot of people happy to get Trump out of office, but they're not happy to get some of these lawmakers out of office. This is where this counts at. This is where your votes count at. And if you don't believe me, just look at what goes on. Your delegates. Who are your delegates? If any of you still have your papers, your voting papers from this summer, primaries, you'll see your absent ballots. You'll see delegates for candidate such and such. Then you get to understand that Article 2 doesn't apply to popular votes. What you say and how you feel, that's not how your votes will be cast. Your votes will be cast by, again, your lawmakers. Because your congressional members, your assembly members, they have infinite terms in office. Can you imagine somebody having an infinite term and they're supposed to be representing you and they've done nothing? Can you imagine having a person in Congress where on a federal level, what affects the black and brown communities, immigration laws, financial institutions, access, quality access, and they've done nothing, no proposals whatsoever? How do you actually think or believe that your vote should be any place other than focus on the black and brown community getting inclusion into the financial institutions, into the socio-economical infrastructure here in America. You can't. So I'm not saying how to vote. I'm not saying what you should vote. I'm just saying learn to apply your vote to where it counts, opposed to where it doesn't count. And you'll be under that good spirit of knowing that you've done a good deed. I thank you for this segment.